Perhaps the most intimidating and annoying element of the universe is its sheer size. Even within our own galaxy, the distances to the nearest stars appear to be absurd. If you travel at the speeds we have now, even with tiny microprobes fitted with laser-driven light sails, it will be decades before you reach Alpha Centauri, and if we send humans on that journey with all of our supplies, equipment, and human accoutrements, it could take centuries and require a generational ship where several successive generations are born, live, and die on the ship. Hello everyone, welcome back to Zeey. Subscribe to our channel and follow us as we delve deep into this cosmic mysteries. This may realistically require nothing less than a hollowed-out asteroid city. For some people, this may not be an issue. Before the modern era, it was conceivable to be born, live, and die in a single community without ever leaving its immediate surroundings. An asteroid is similar in that it has enough to keep a suitable human occupied and pleased. But if you have someone born on such a spacecraft, stuck aboard, who desires to see Earth, you run into ethical and practical issues. In this approach, generational ships could become nightmarish civilizations that must carefully limit information to prevent restlessness and pining for Earth. Indeed, as the age that truly knew the planet died off, most of the residents may not even be aware of its existence. This is not ideal, as humans frequently infer or hear things that the powers that be did not intend, paving the door for civil unrest, rebellion, and unhappiness in the sealed environment of a hollowed-out asteroid. Not good. Chuck, with his insane thoughts about the ideal world outside the asteroid, should not have access to the airlock controls. But consider future technology and how this forecast could change substantially. Life extension would be a game changer in this situation. We view our existence through the lens of our longevity, which is still less than a century on average. However, we are making progress in understanding the aging process, and it is possible that future people will live substantially longer than we do now. Indeed, if Aubrey de Grey is correct, there are people walking around right now who could catch a wave of anti-aging technology and end up living for centuries, in the sense that catching a development that takes you to 150 years buys time for more discoveries that could take you to 500 years, and so on. But there are limits. No matter what you do, you cannot indefinitely extend biological life as we know it. You will always lose the odds and get incinerated while attempting to repair the oven on the generational asteroid ship, no matter how safe you are in comparison to life on Earth. However, if you live for 5,000 years, a few decades spent aboard a non-generational ship may be something that some are willing to do. We live on a planet where most people do not attempt to climb Mount Everest, but some do. Space is not the same as it appears to the adventurer, then I'll do it first spirit or conquering it because it exists. Indeed, if SpaceX's plan comes to fulfillment, Mars colonization will be dependent on this. No matter how severe the living conditions of a beginning Mars colony are guaranteed to be, there will be takers. So the game changes if you adjust the time equation and ignore our current human concerns about our longevity. Especially if you can identify whether or not there is anywhere to go, which we already know may exist at Proxima Centauri. It could be a worse world than Mars, and it most likely is, but we know there are planets there. The initial seeds of something we may eventually set foot on, planted by a 5,000-year-old human who has seen it all and believes he may be the first to witness a really alien world. Chuck has nothing to lose in this scenario. He'll step off the asteroid one way or another. However, this is only the nearest star system. There are 3 options for human expansion beyond that point. Number 1, do it biologically, as humans do, though with considerably longer lifespans. Number 2, do it semi-biologically with a more intense integration of human biology and technology. And number 3, do it robotically with artificial intelligence. Surprisingly, the latter contains an unexpected option of not faster than light travel, but easy speed of light travel. More on that later. Before we continue, it should be mentioned that any of these factors are extremely likely to have an impact on alien civilizations. They will be subject to the same regulations, the laws of physics, as we are. So, if they want to actually explore space beyond their solar system, they will have to go through this at some point in their growth. It's possible that no one thinks this is worth it, and that it never is, a solution to the Fermi paradox in and of itself, but let's pretend they do and that we will someday. So first and foremost, do it biologically. This is a circumstance in which we have expanded to Alpha Centauri and established a colony comparable to Earth. This gives humans 2 chances to push further, because the closest stars to Alpha Centauri will have a different selection than the Sun. However, there is a chance that Earth will begin colonizing other nearby stars. As more ships are sent out to settle other stars, this begins a potentially exponential spread of humans throughout the galaxy. The more star systems you colonize, the faster this snowballs. You could be present at totally non-relativistic speeds in any suitable star system in the galaxy in a few million years, as long as you don't run into anyone else who is already there. It would be very unfortunate if Chuck, after all his interstellar adventures, discovers that his dream planet is already inhabited and is denied entry by the aliens for reasons similar to why cruise ships require you to discard any potentially disease-ridden produce you may have acquired. No, Chuck, but the ship's artificial intelligence computer may visit the surface. Number 2 is the fusion of biology and technology. We leave poor Chuck in orbit of a planet he's not permitted to visit, missing the AI he needs to return to Earth since it's escaped and begun a new life on the surface. Introduce Gwen, our second space traveler, who has concluded that becoming a cyborg is the most realistic solution to all human existential issues and questions. The issue with biological longevity is that we are bound to our brains. Making a computer replica of yourself isn't enough in this case. You're not that imitation. You do not enter your actual conscious being into the machine. That might be achievable with a cyborg. The important question here is, of course, translation, but there may be a way. If you begin biologically, then progress to cyborg augmentation, such as hip replacement surgery, and finally replace every neuron of the brain gradually with technology that can assume the functions of the former neuron, you may be able to do it so gradually that you don't notice a difference. You're still you, or as close to it as you can get, but you're partly or totally cybernetic. If that's the case, you might be able to translate yourself to a computer and make a backup, though it's still unclear whether you just be making a copy rather than downloading yourself into a new body, but there may be ways to do that in such a changed paradigm, such as incorporating yourself into an ever-augmenting and growing main brain where you are the source, but capable of disseminating yourself with copies you receive data from. In this circumstance, you become us rather than individuals. The Borg is you. Aside from that, you may have a better chance of living considerably longer than biology allows. Gwen becomes larger than original Gwen here, even if she is still just Gwen when it comes down to it. Gwen's interstellar travel and colonization is brought up here. If she lives indefinitely, say for 100 million years, then comfortable sublight travel to other nearby galaxies isn't as important as it would be for someone who lives for less than a century. But here the distinctions blur. What was once biological and has now changed to becoming a machine is not the same as a machine that has always been one. This is where AI comes into play, and it has one benefit over biological or formerly biological systems in that it doesn't worry about the passage of time as long as it can continue its existence. And now is where things become fascinating, since the vast majority of the observable world becomes explorable. This is constrained at slow speeds by the expansion of the universe. A machine traveling very great distances will have to contend with this. However, there is a wild card, time dilation. All 3 choices are prone to this, but you must be unconcerned about remaining in the time you started, because traveling at high relativistic speeds will always dump you in the far future from where you started in time. But if you don't mind that, go ahead and explore a vast section of the universe. Here you go at high relativistic speeds, as long as you can develop the technology and find a technique to mitigate matter striking your ship at relativistic speeds. If you can do this, vast swaths of the observable universe become available. Millions of galaxies are now within your grasp, as long as you don't mind the passage of time. Gwen or an intelligent machine might not be able to. Even aliens may not have any link to their own time, and even then, not all. If given the opportunity, there will be some willing to journey to the far future, even if they cannot return to their own time. But that isn't the only option. There are ways to travel faster than the speed of light that are consistent with relativity. Miguel Alcubierre developed the famous Alcubierre warp drive concept. The goal here is to separate a fragment of space-time and make it go faster than light, carrying your ship like a car. The car is driving at fast speeds on the highway, not you. You are merely along for the journey. This idea is consistent with relativity, but it is fraught with all sorts of issues that may or may not be surmountable, such as the fact that when you go FTL, you have also built a time machine, which may or may not come with paradoxes, the fact that the drive still requires enormous amounts of energy to create, and there is also no clear way to slow it down and bring it out of warp, as well as the radiation environment within the warp bubble, and so on. And, probably most tellingly, we don't see alien starships coming out of warp in an Alcubierre-style drive, because the radiation emitted by such a vehicle, if directed at your planet, would result in mass extinction. On the other hand, they could be able to solve those challenges for a Type 3 galaxy-spanning machine society. Perhaps there aren't any yet, and the future will be teeming with warping devices. However, there are various ways to imagine travel. When dealing with the copy scenario, in which you send out duplicates of yourself that become you once you receive their dataset, the concept of speed of light beaming comes into play, but not in the way that Star Trek implies. Over millions of years, you put up a network of 3D printer probes at sub-light speeds developed expressly to communicate the data of constructing you at the speed of light using electromagnetic radiation to reconstruct a replica of you on site. This digital clone collects data and sends it back at the speed of light. It may take a long time to receive and assimilate that information, but time is the one thing we have in abundance in this universe. Perhaps the future involves working on very long timescales, and if you're prepared to do so, most of the challenges of interplanetary and even intergalactic travel can be solved with enough time, patience, and, most importantly, tenacity. But let me leave you with one last idea. If ever exploring intergalactic space proves impractical, even if the rules of physics do not forbid it, there is another option. We don't comprehend how universes are created. We have no idea. However, if it is able to find that out and comprehend all of the rules, it may be possible in principle to build worlds intentionally. This is far future material, commonly envisioned as something civilizations at the end of time might only attempt, but claim to have completed. In their day, the universe would be so vast that intergalactic travel would be nearly impossible, assuming you even knew other galaxies existed. So building and escaping to a new universe alters everything, that you don't need other galaxies, only other universes. A peculiar proposition, functionally stuck in your galaxy but not in your universe. Alright guys, the video ends here. Thank you for your time. Is there any idea you'd like to add? Tell us in the comments, and please subscribe to our channel for regular, in-depth investigations of the fascinating, strange, and mysterious parts of our magnificent universe.